A machine this large is not judged by speed alone. It is judged by whether it can move heavy cargo across continents without depending on another country's engines, airframes, or supply chain. That is the industrial question behind China's Y-20 Kunpeng. The aircraft first flew in January 2013 and entered service in July 2016. A decade later, official footage shows not one isolated transport, but a growing family. The original transport configuration, the WS-20-powered Y-20B and the Y-20 aerial refueling derivative. What began as an effort to close a strategic airlift gap has become a much larger test. Can China design, manufacture, power, and sustain a large military aircraft largely through its own industrial base? The finished aircraft makes the challenge obvious. Its broad cargo fuselage sits beneath a high-mounted swept wing. 4 turbofan engines hang from reinforced pylons. A tall tail keeps the control surfaces clear of the rear loading area, while heavy, multi-wheel landing gear carries the mass into the runway. At the back, a large ramp turns the fuselage into a flying warehouse. But every one of those features must work as part of a single structure. A transport can be enormous and still fail its purpose if the floor cannot accept concentrated loads, the ramp cannot transfer them safely, or the airframe becomes too heavy to carry useful cargo. That is why the Y-20 story begins long before a completed grey aircraft rolls into daylight. It begins with geometry, load paths, and production planning. A large airlifter contains thousands of parts spread across structures, flight controls, hydraulics, electrics, avionics, landing gear, cargo systems, and propulsion. Those parts cannot simply be manufactured, then adjusted until they fit. The wing, fuselage, tail, ramp, and engine pylons must reach final assembly with their interfaces already controlled to tight limits. Public imagery does not reveal the complete Y-20 production line, so any reconstruction must remain conservative. But the manufacturing logic is clear. Digital definitions establish the shape of structural frames, skin panels, floor beams, attachment points, and system routes. Tooling then holds each section in the correct position while technicians drill, fasten, measure, and inspect it. On an aircraft this large, a tiny alignment error repeated across a fuselage section can become a major problem when the wing, doors, or rear ramp are installed. The first physical components are not yet an aircraft. They are machined fittings, formed panels, ribs, spars, composite fairings, brackets, pipes, wiring assemblies, and carefully labeled hardware. Large metallic pieces are cut and shaped, then checked for dimensions and surface defects. Curved skin panels are prepared to carry aerodynamic loads without adding unnecessary mass. Structural joints receive particular attention because they must transfer force repeatedly through takeoff, turbulence, landing, and ground handling. Inspection continues before the sections ever reach final assembly. Surfaces can be checked visually and with non-destructive methods for defects that would otherwise remain hidden beneath paint or sealant. Fastener holes, bonded areas, and major fittings are examined before access disappears. If a part falls outside tolerance, the decision is controlled. Rework it under an approved procedure, replace it, or reject it. That discipline matters. A heavy transport accumulates thousands of individual manufacturing decisions, and one undocumented shortcut can remain buried inside the aircraft for years. But the difficult part is not producing one impressive component. It is making every component arrive in sequence, with the same controlled quality, again and again. The fuselage begins to take recognizable form when frames, stringers, floor structures, and skin panels are brought together inside rigid assembly fixtures. The cargo floor is especially important. Unlike a passenger cabin, it must accept pallets, vehicles, tie-down forces, and heavy loads moving across a limited number of contact points. Floor tracks and restraint fittings therefore become part of the aircraft's structural mission, not merely its interior equipment. Separate fuselage sections can be built in parallel before they are aligned and joined. Overhead cranes and engineered fixtures carry the weight. Technicians do not improvise around unsupported structures. Measurements are taken across reference points before permanent fastening closes the joint. The goal is not visual perfection. It is repeatable alignment, so doors seal, systems connect, and the aircraft behaves as one continuous structure under load. The wing is another production problem entirely. It must generate lift while carrying fuel, engines, control surfaces, and the bending forces created by a heavy fuselage below it. Internal spars and ribs establish the load-bearing skeleton. Skins close the structure and preserve the aerodynamic surface. Engine pylons must transmit thrust and weight into the wing without creating unacceptable stress concentrations. When the completed wing structure meets the fuselage, the mating operation becomes one of the most consequential moments in assembly. At this scale, even the factory becomes part of the engineering system. Platforms must give workers safe access without striking the airframe. Lifting equipment must move slowly enough to prevent a section from swinging. Tooling must support the structure without distorting it. One dramatic crane movement may look impressive on camera, but real aerospace assembly is built around restraint, measurement, and patience. Once the main airframe is joined, the aircraft still cannot fly. It is an empty shell, waiting for systems. Wiring harnesses spread through the fuselage and wings, connecting sensors, controls, cockpit equipment, lighting, communications, and monitoring systems. Hydraulic lines route pressure to the landing gear, brakes, flight control actuators, and rear cargo ramp. Fuel lines, pumps, valves, and tanks must be installed, sealed, and tested. Each system follows a planned path. A pipe or cable placed in the wrong position can block maintenance access, rub against the structure, or interfere with another component. The landing gear represents concentrated mechanical complexity. It must support the aircraft while parked, absorb landing energy, steer, brake, retract, and fit inside limited space. Multiple wheels distribute weight across the pavement, while robust struts and linkages carry the loads into reinforced sections of the airframe. Installation is only the beginning. Extension, retraction, steering, braking, and hydraulic leakage all require separate checks before flight. Inside the cargo bay, reinforced flooring, roller or track systems, tie-down points, lighting, utility connections, and ramp mechanisms turn the airframe into a working transport. Public access to the Y-20 cargo hold at Airshow China in 2024 gave viewers a rare look at its ribbed interior, broad floor, and rear access. What appears visually simple is actually a carefully organized loading environment. Cargo must be positioned so its mass remains within the aircraft's balance limits, and its restraints must continue working under acceleration, turbulence, and landing loads. The aircraft now looks nearly complete. But the defining question of the Y-20 program is still hanging beneath the wing. Earlier aircraft were associated with narrower, Russian-origin D-30 family engines. The Y-20B is identified by the visibly larger nacelles of the domestically developed WS-20 high-bypass turbofan. Chinese official and state-linked reporting presents this change as a major improvement in thrust, fuel efficiency, range, payload performance, and supply independence. The external difference is easy to see. The industrial difference is much deeper. An engine is not attached like a simple replacement part. The pylon, mounts, fuel connections, electrical interfaces, control software, sensors, nacelle, and aerodynamic clearances must function as one integrated system. During installation, A lifting cradle raises the engine into position while alignment is checked at the mounting points. Connections are completed, inspected, and protected before the nacelle is closed. Across 4 engines, the process must produce consistent geometry and reliable behavior. This is where the Y-20B becomes more than another variant. It represents an attempt to remove one of the program's most visible dependencies. But does replacing an imported engine automatically place an aircraft in the same class as the most mature Western airlifters? The answer depends on far more than thrust. Dispatch reliability, maintenance intervals, runway performance, fuel burn under real loads, spare parts availability, and fleet experience matter just as much. And much of that evidence is not publicly available in independently verifiable detail. Chinese reporting assigns the Y-20B a maximum takeoff weight of about 220 tons and a maximum payload near 66 tons. Boeing lists the C-17's maximum payload at roughly 74.8 tons. Airbus lists 37 tons for the smaller A400M. Those figures create an obvious comparison, but they do not settle it. The C-17 was designed around heavy strategic lift and austere field access. The A400M trades a lower maximum payload for tactical flexibility on short and unpaved strips. The Y-20 must be judged by the combination of load, distance, runway demand, availability, and support, not by a single headline number. That comparison divides observers into 2 camps. One sees the Y-20B as evidence that China has crossed a major aerospace threshold. The other sees a platform whose most ambitious claims still require years of transparent operational evidence. Both positions can point to real facts. The argument begins over which facts matter most. After assembly, every aircraft enters a sequence designed to expose faults before delivery. Electrical power is applied progressively. Computers and cockpit systems are checked. Hydraulic circuits are pressurized. Flight control surfaces move through their commanded ranges. The cargo ramp cycles under observation. Landing gear and brakes are tested. Fuel systems are examined for leakage and correct flow. None of these checks proves the aircraft is ready on its own. Together, they build confidence that the systems interact correctly. Engine runs add vibration, heat, airflow, and thrust to the test environment. Technicians inspect for leaks, abnormal movement, unusual sound, and temperature behavior. Taxi testing then places the complete aircraft under rolling load. Steering response, braking, suspension movement, engine control, and cockpit indications can all be evaluated before the aircraft leaves the ground. Flight testing expands the envelope carefully. Initial sorties focus on basic handling and system behavior. Later work can add heavier loads, different centers of gravity, higher speeds, longer durations, and mission equipment. A heavy transport must also demonstrate that its cargo systems work in the air, not only inside a hangar. Load restraint, ramp operation where applicable, airdrop procedures, and the aircraft's response to changing mass all demand validation. Only after that process does the machine become useful. Operational Y-20s have carried personnel, relief supplies, heavy equipment, and specialized cargo on domestic and international missions. Chinese military reporting has documented disaster relief flights, peacekeeping transport, and long-distance deployments. The Y-20 tanker derivative extends the family into aerial refueling, showing how a large airframe can become the foundation for more than one mission. And this may be the program's most important manufacturing advantage. Once the basic structure, production tooling, supplier network, engines, software, training and maintenance system exist, the aircraft family can evolve without starting from zero. Transport variants move cargo. Tanker variants move fuel through the air. Future derivatives may use the same broad platform for other publicly acknowledged support roles, although proposed configurations should not be treated as operational until they are confirmed. The Y-20 therefore represents two products at once. The first is the aircraft visible on the runway, a broad-bodied, four-engine transport built to move outsized loads. The second is the industrial system behind it. Factories, suppliers, engine development, test infrastructure, crews, and maintenance organizations capable of producing and operating a fleet. So, is the Y-20B already the equal of the C-17? Or is that comparison premature? Public data cannot fully answer that question. What can be seen is the direction of travel. In 13 years, the platform moved from first flight to service, overseas missions, a tanker derivative, and a domestic engine variant presented as the new standard. The real achievement is not simply that China built one giant aircraft. It is that the country is building the industrial capacity to keep producing, powering, adapting, and supporting an entire strategic airlift family. Subscribe to Modus Assembly for more inside the factory documentaries on the world's most powerful machines.